Everyone, Dr. Clint Steele here, True Chiro, and I'm here with Dr. Nick Silveri. How you doing, Dr. Nick?
What's going on, Dr. Clint?
Did I get that right? Silveri, right?
Nailed it.
I nailed it, man. That's awesome. I hope you're doing well. For those of you watching, Dr. Nick, we're going to be talking about his podcast. And the reason we're going to be talking about his podcast because it's amazing, because he has people like me on it. Right, Dr. Nick?
That's right. Only the best.
Only the best. And that comes out tomorrow. For those of you watching, you want to watch this because we had a great time, man, shooting that.
I thought it was an awesome interview.
Podcast, yeah.
I thought it was great.
Pulled out a lot of great information. We gave a lot of tips, some good nuggets. We shared, I pulled this out early, we shared the letter from my grandmother, which is like 3 pages long, but basically bashing me for being, she calls me lazy in this thing, by the way, and that I should be ashamed of myself. So I haven't read that in about 3 years, but that was one of the things that got me back into practice and really motivated me to go from 0 to 500 patient visits a week in 6 months. So make sure you catch that. We'll put the link out tomorrow when it comes out. But Dr. Nick, appreciate your time. You're out in Chicago, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm in Maine, so we're both in cold weather. That's why I've got my hoodie on, my Broncos hoodie, by the way.
Nice. It's gonna be like 50 here for Christmas, so I guess it's not that cold. Yeah.
All right, man. So the podcast is called Path to a Million. And the thing that I love about this, Dr. Nick, is that you take docs from different stages in their practice and you help them like not only get through that stage, but then get to the next stage.
Right.
So can you go through those stages real quick?
Yeah. So when I was trying to think of what I should make my podcast about, because I wanted there to be a theme to the podcast. Like I wanted there to be structure to the interviews. And so it's Chiropractic's only daily podcast. And we do interviews with practicing chiropractors on Tuesdays and experts/coaches on Thursdays. So when I first started, I originally only wanted to interview practicing chiropractors. But I'm like, man, there's so many people that are not in practice that have so much to share. I would hate to not, be able to interview those because of some dumb arbitrary rule that I made up. So anyway, with the practicing chiropractors like yourself, what I do is I have what I think that there are 3 stages that chiropractors go through to build $1 million practice from zero. And the reason why I say $1 million practice is not because it's all about the money, but because that when we're in school, we all want to build $1 million practices, or at least the people that I hung out with in chiropractic school. So taking it from 0 to $1 million, there are 3 stages that I think that are very different from the others. Like each stage is different from the other 2. So there's 0 to $250,000 a year in collections. There's $250,000 to $500,000. There's $500,000 to $1 million. And the reason why I break those 3 up is because at each one of those stages, I think that there are different challenges, different needs, a different you that needs to exist to be able to accelerate through those stages. And then once you've made it to $1 million, to keep your practice above $1 million. So what I do is I interview practicing doctors that have met the requirements that I've set for each of those 4 stages. So either, they don't have to do all of them, but either they are currently over $1 million, or they went from 0 to 250 in under 12 months, went from 250 to 500,000 in under 2 years, or went from 500,000 to $1 million in under 3 years. And we've met doctors like yourself that just like crushed it through all of them. I just want to take people back, like when they are a doctor that went through those processes, what is it that you were like when you started at 0, and what did it take for you? What was the big needle mover to get you from 0 to 250? So I've interviewed people that are currently like new in practice. Like one of my clients is, I think they're maybe like 7 months, 8 months in practice now, but they've blown through that first stage. I've talked to other doctors who've been in practice for 30 years that went through each one of those stages or are currently over $1 million. So it's just a matter of like trying to get real world advice for doctors that are out there listening. Because a lot of times I feel like with some of the chiropractic podcasts out there, it's like everybody just kind of talks to the same people. And so I cross paths with a lot of chiropractors. So I just want to, when I find someone interesting that I'm like, oh, I would love to hear about that. Can we do an interview? When you told me that you were selling Kirby vacuum cleaners, You went from 0 to 500. I'm like, that's interesting. Let's talk more about that.
Absolutely. Yeah, I love the fact that you have, because well, for anyone that's going from 0 to 250,000, has different obstacles, as they're doing different things than when they go from 250 to 500. So
Yep.
yeah, absolutely. And then from 500 to $1 million, absolutely, man.
And I didn't want to make it there. Most of the people that I interview, especially the ones that are like superstars, they go from I interviewed 𝗵𝘃𝗶𝘴 from 𝗵 a few weeks ago, and that's a really good episode. That's going to be coming up in a couple of weeks. He went from he was collecting $20,000 a month inside of like the first month. So like the first week, I think he collected $20,000. So like he's just like a shooting star, right? You're a shooting star. Not everybody is going to be. I wasn't like that when I started out in practice. So I wanted people that have gone from 0 to 250 in under 12 months. That's a realistic number that a lot of people could accomplish. And I want to bring on people that don't have coaching programs also on top of being really successful doctors. I just want to bring on like random Joe Schmo that have nothing to sell, so that people can just listen to them and just be like, this is really great information. And these people seem like me.
And I think that's key. And that's one of the things that we talked about in our interview, was surrounding yourself with people that have gotten to that point, right? Whether it's in person or whether it's on social media, but just hearing their thought process, hearing, how they talk, as compared to, we talked about this in my interview, was, before, when I had a struggling practice, I had a PVA of 12, seeing 100 a week. The surrounding at that time was docs that were complaining about practice, complaining about, Medicare, complaining about insurance companies, whatever. So that was my mindset. So I had to change that. And by doing that, yeah, it was huge. So
now you're doing all the big stuff.
Say that again?
Now you're doing all the big stuff.
Doing all the big stuff. Yeah, I don't know about all the big stuff, but I'm not selling Kirby vacuum cleaners anymore. Give me that. So how long has this been going on, Dr. Nick? How long you just started this, right? Your first interview was not that long ago with Gary Vee, right?
Yeah. So when I did the Gary Vee interview, I was going to start the podcast similar to a lot of the other chiropractic podcasts, or just podcasts in general, where I was going to do one a week. I was going to do an interview every week of a practicing chiropractor. And then I'm like, you know what? I run a content marketing agency, Leverage Media. And I was like, if I'm running a content marketing agency and I'm trying to be a good example, all the podcasts that I listen to are daily podcasts. And so I was like, I'm just going to do a daily podcast. So then I started to have to figure out how to fill the pipes, every day with content. And so we start our first episode that we posted was November 4th. And so we've done every day since then.
That's crazy. That's a lot of work, man. Hats off to you.
Well, I've got a good team for that.
Let's go through here real quick. Let's just provide some value to the docs watching.
Yeah.
So let's go from 0 to 250. You've spoken to a number of docs at that level.
Yeah.
What is the number one thing that you found that docs need to do? I know I'm just throwing you on the spot here. No. That docs need to do to go from 0 to 250. What's the common theme?
Almost every single one of them, it's about hustle. It's about those people that accelerated through the 0 to 250 stage were not scared to get out and talk to people. Now, almost all of them, it was about networking. They didn't have budgets. They didn't have money to spend on ads. They were out at the Chamber of Commerce, because most of the people that I'm talking to, went through the 0 to 250 stage a while ago. So they've been successful for a while. Now, some have been newer, but without fail, they're all talking about getting out, interacting with their community. 𝗵𝘃𝗶𝘴, I think he said running. Yeah, he said I was running for community chiropractor. Yeah. And I loved the way he said that. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. He was just shaking hands and kissing babies,
Yeah. Yeah, and Gary Vee did an awesome job. I love the interview with him, because he pulled out his phone and he said, the recommendation I would have for people just starting off, go through your phone. Like every single person in there, even if they're not near you, let them know you're opening up a business. Let them know how you're different. Let them know that you're doing this. They may know somebody, right?
Yeah.
But regardless, and that's what I did. Was I was running for mayor. I had to meet 100 people a month and invite them into my office to get an assessment. Some said yes, some said no, some said maybe later on, but it didn't matter. I was still meeting the people and getting the word out.
That triggered because it's been a couple of weeks since we did our interview, so I had forgotten that part of ours. But I liked how you had a number you had to hit, and it's like I think your son was holding you accountable, if I remember correctly. Yeah. And that was such a smart way of doing it, because it forced you to go out and do those things. And it's like if you were left with a couple of people that you needed to meet for the month or whatever it might have been, you were forcing yourself to get out there and do it, and you kind of gamified it, which I think is an important part of it. Yeah,
I think, and measuring it too, and gamified it. I like that word. Yeah. All right, so how about from 250 to 500? What's the common theme to go from 250 to 500? What are most docs missing?
That's where it starts to kind of deviate into what kind of works naturally for them. So a lot of them will do some type of either like an internal promotion, like a dinner with the doc, or they get really good at turning one person into three. So asking for referrals, having systems in place for those referrals, that's where whatever kind of resonates with that individual person, it tends to be the thing that they're going to be successful, that they're going to get done. Like if you're not going to do dinner talks, once a month or once a quarter, if you're not going to do that, you're not going to ask people to invite their friends, you're not going to systematize it, then that's not going to be the thing for you. So you got to kind of find the thing that you're going to be able to consistently do. And this is the part where I think that a lot of people get stuck is, they get to the 250 mark, and usually the 250 mark, you're collecting 20,000 a month and you're keeping 10,000 of it. If you're the only doctor in the office, you should be keeping about 50% of the money. So you're making $100,000 a year now. This is where I think that people that are not, like natural born entrepreneurs that are just competitive and pushing, this is where I think a lot of them tend to get stuck. When I talk to people on our strategy sessions, I get a lot of people like around this stage, like in that $15,000 to $20,000 a month range, that have been stuck there for a while, and they're looking for something to kind of break the mold. And a lot of times it's between the ears.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think each level, it's first off between the ears, right? So what I did during that stage was, and as you're talking, I set up dinner talks. Every 3 weeks I had dinner talks. And then I had wine, women, and wellness events going on as well. And so what this did was this naturally allowed my patients then to bring their friends and family members to an event outside of the regular adjustment. And so by hosting those events, that's how I was able to get a 97% close rate on people that attended those events. Because someone who knows, likes, and trusts me knows, likes, and trusts them, so it automatically makes this whole thing, right? I also had a 37% pay in full rate. So that was my thing. Can you give another example, Dr. Nick, of what that system might be? That system, what am I trying to say? Systemization. What's another thing that docs have talked about in that stage?
The dinner with the docs is a big one.
Okay.
And having like internal events is a big one. But the systemization piece and I can't remember who talked about this, but they were really, really good about asking for referrals as soon as somebody had a positive, like and they had their team trained on this, because it's not always the doctor that hears about the success right away or the excitement in somebody's voice. So they had their whole team trained on when somebody excitedly, that was kind of the key to it, when they're excited about telling you about a result, that's when they had a script for asking for the referral. Okay. And they housed it, and this person did not say this, but I've heard someone else talk about it this way, to where we are the reason why you're asking for the referral is because you're a mission-driven practice, and you think that the people in your office are healthier and safer than the people that are not. And so we're looking for help from our community members and our practice members to help us bring in more people into the mission.
Yeah.
So when you include somebody in a mission, now all of a sudden they're more likely to help, I think.
Absolutely. I agree with that. And
but training your staff on that part of it, I think, is super important, because if your front desk hears 40% of the success stories, but they don't know what to do to turn that into a referral, you're missing out on big opportunities.
Yeah. One of the things that we've done, that I did, well, I still do, is at 6 weeks, I do my reevaluation. And usually at 6 weeks, like, people are starting to see some really good results. We do our objective reevals at that point too, show them the progress, and they're excited at that point. That's when we have a script in place where we ask them, for a referral, we ask them to give a testimonial, either a Facebook Live or a video, or we can take a picture, because then, like you said, we go back and say, listen, there's people out there that aren't aware that chiropractic can help them with asthma or allergies or whatever it is they're seeing success with. Can you help us reach more people by sharing this, so we can share this?
Yeah. And I think that's so smart to make it more about them being a part of helping other people versus just you need a referral or you need a testimony.
Yeah, instead of doc, you just need to make your Mercedes payment this month, or whatever. Yeah, absolutely, I agree. And then, so what's the common theme then, Dr. Nick, from going from $500,000 to $1 million? What do most docs talk about?
That usually becomes more about the team and about having systems in place, and because usually those people, when you've gotten to $500,000, you've kind of figured out how to get people through the door. Now it's a matter of how can we keep these people on track? How can we keep our PVA higher? Because if you have to consistently get 50 new patients a month to refill the pipes so that you stay at 100, 150, 200 visits a week, it becomes a drain. It's a struggle, pushing that boulder uphill. So now it becomes about systematizing things and making sure that your team understands the mission. Absolutely,
love it, man. That's awesome stuff. For those of you watching, make sure you follow. You're on Spotify. You're on all the podcast.
So wherever you listen to podcasts, if you just type in Path to, I think it's Path to $1 Million podcast is how it's listed on
Path to $1 Million podcast, man. Great idea. I love the work that you're doing. Also, in addition, you've got Leverage. Is it called Leverage Media?
Leverage Media, yeah.
Do you want to talk about that real quick, Dr. Nick?
Absolutely, yeah. So it's Leverage Media is so I'm a chiropractor. I still have my practice. I'm in charge of the marketing of the practice. And so what I realized when I hired my first marketing director was that chiropractors don't need more people explaining to them how they should be marketing. They just need somebody to do it for them. Yeah. So with Leverage Media, you get the benefit of my ideas and then my team's implementation. So not only do I go and learn all the best practices and kind of think through all of that for you, but then my team implements that. So we're a content marketing agency. So we do ask the doctors to create videos and blogs. In 2020, we're probably going to be adding in podcasts so that we can have video, text, and audio content being pushed out to the communities. But we use best practices, and we make sure that people actually see the content that we're creating. So we help them figure out what it is that they should be saying, and then we do all the tech work, all the video editing, all the copywriting, the retargeting, the posting, and we get all that out there. So you basically have, in a box, you're in probably the top 1 to 3% of chiropractors worldwide of your online presence if you're a client of ours and you follow what we tell you to do.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Good stuff, man. Getting the truth out there, right?
That's right. Gotcha.
Saving more lives. That's what it's all about. So,
absolutely.
Dr. Nick, I appreciate you. I appreciate the work that you're doing. I appreciate your time today. And I appreciate you having me on your podcast the other day, man. And for those of you watching, again, that's going to be out tomorrow. We'll share that with you. But Dr. Nick, thanks so much. Any last words?
No, I just want to say thank you, A, for being on the podcast, and B, for everything you're doing for the profession. I just think that you're doing it in such a good way. You're doing it content-based. You're adding value all the time. And so I'm a student of yours as well. I'm always kind of keeping my eye on all the things that you're doing, because I think you do a really good job.
Well, I appreciate that, man. That means a lot to me, especially coming from an expert like yourself. So thanks so much. All right, everyone. Have a great day. Hopefully this helps you, and we'll talk to you soon. Have a Merry Christmas.